Oh, that's great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Take notes.
Got that one in my stocking this year. My husband's good to me, he gets me fun pens.
All right. Call the meeting to order, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't know. Thanks for coming.
Hey, all right. Now we're
Your
doing
name tag
business.
should be right up there.
And
Let me know if you didn't get one of these. I think that's a full packet. though.
we've heard from Butch, and Butch is not going to be able to be with
You
us.
missed the pledge of
Okay.
allegiance, so you can pick it up at home later.
Good to have you here. The next piece of business is to review the minutes. Any additions, subtractions, deletions,
Oh, they look excellent.
corrections?
One for me.
Joseph, maybe you did it right, huh?
Hopefully.
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
Second.
Motion's been made and second to accept the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous, and I declare so. We have an application for a public hearing. So I'm going to ask if the proponent for the public hearing wants to come forward and present what it is that they're asking for or why they're asking for it. Explain that to the board. I will point out, just for the record, that the application was incomplete, and if any board member doesn't want to, they can object. Okay?
What was it incomplete for?
They didn't make the request. A special exception is requested for article blank, section blank,
Oh, okay.
and the same thing happened on the zoning, blank, blank. They're not telling us what they want to have
Okay,
to be excused from or worked
I
around.
see.
okay. So you want a motion to pass over that, or want to say that it's, that we'll take it with the,
We would have to
You
make
wanna-
a motion to object, I think, and not view the.
okay, otherwise it rolls on, okay.
So it's up to the proponent? Do we have a proponent?
If you don't mind, Eric Bouchard is the applicant. I'm going to speak just on behalf of what is being requested here.
Your name for the record, please.
Richard Gowan. Yep. So basically, this is a very simple request. I'm sure you hear that on all of them, but it is a very simple request. The property at 42 Main Street, which has housing above, 4 units above, okay, requires to have a certain amount of parking for it, okay? The parking has been utilized either at Railroad Square, which the applicant owns as well, and up here at 2 and 4 Gould Street is where the provisions have been made for the students to park, okay? So what we'd like to do, because now this property is transferring ownership at 42 Main Street, is to create an easement at the end of Gould Street in front of the 2 buildings that are up there in a parking lot that is already established and existing and has been used for such purpose right along. So the variance is for the additional 40 feet or so that it's over the 300-foot mark, okay, which seems pretty simple. And then the special exception is to use the parking lot, the underutilized parking lot, as a parking lot for this. It just makes for a cleaner transition to make this sale. The easement will be written, which will run in perpetuity for a length of time. And the owner of 42 Main will have the right to use that parking lot. Now, there are 2 buildings up there, 2 and 4 Gould Street. Each of them have ample parking right next to the buildings up above. The parking lot sits down below. And if you're familiar with it, if you go down Gould Street, to the left is where CGSB built that parking lot, and to the right is where this parking lot is, okay? It's a gravel parking lot. It's been there for quite some time. It was cleaned up several years ago. Just did some maintenance on it, was about it. At that time, who am I thinking? Brian was around to take a look at it and had no issues with it. So with that, I guess I'd open it up for questions.
Board members?
So is it a separate lot? Both those little lots are pretty small at 42 and 44.
They each have, they're
and
each
4.
separate lots, okay? And the parking lot does stretch over both of them, so the easement will be on both properties.
It'll be an easement on both properties.
Yep.
And, okay.
And
Was-
2 and 4 Gold Terrace, it's owned by the same
By
people?
Joseph Miller, Eric Bouchard, and John Matchell.
Okay, how did that road, was that part of Gould Road before? Because I know the community guarantee there used to be a road went down, and then it would drop down.
It used to come down, and it took a little left in it, and then went right down over where the stairs are, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when that was given up, and the
So
town was thrilled.
this other part of the road down where he is now, that was always owned with those adjacent
Yes.
properties, huh? Okay, great,
Yep.
thank you.
Other questions?
How many current parking spaces are on the lot 2 and the lot 4? Right, because there's like a maximum number of parking lots, right? Parking spots that are available per lot?
Parking spots up above, we didn't really analyze that much, because there's just so much room up there for them. So easily, they have 3 to 6.
They've got 8 people that are there quite often. There's plenty of parking for them and guests. So there's quite a bit.
This is up in 2 and 4?
Yeah, the front lot. And then how many units do you have in each of those buildings?
So there's 3 in each place.
3 at each place.
Building. Yeah.
You mean 3 at 2, 3 at
Beds.
4, and 3 at 42?
No, sorry. There's 3 people living in 2 Gould Terrace, 3 people living in 4 Gould Terrace, and 42 Main Street has maximum of 12.
Oh, okay.
When we say units, is that 3 people or 3 units?
In 42, we're talking?
2 and 4.
And 2 and 4, there's two separate buildings with 3 kids in each.
Only 3 bedrooms, right? So it's pretty small, actually. That's a lot of parking for a small number.
44 and 8 down on Main
Up to
Street.
12 max on Main Street.
How many,
So
again, how many were down on Main Street? How many people?
12.
That's, there are 4 units, 3 potentially in each, so you could have as many as 12.
That's a lot, right?
In years past, they've had the ability to park down on Railroad Square on some of our property down there.
Yeah.
Or up above over there, they could use whatever lot they want. Quite often, that lot has been very empty up at Gould Terrace.
How did you guys measure from one property to the other?
Actually, Joseph did it when we were in his office, and he did the scale on the town.
Okay, Joseph, you want to explain to me how you did that?
Sure, that is just as the crow flies on the tax map,
flies.
on the town's tax map.
Yes, that's right, yep. And so this.
Question.
How do you envision,
Guarantee is
how do you
right-
envision people
Yeah.
walking
And so
from their
this is the
cars to
upper
the property?
parking lot.
Would you
Talking about this
envision
area.
them coming like down the community guarantee stairs?
They run the stairs pretty
onto
much
Main
up the
Street?
stairs and then up Gould Terrace to the parking lot.
So, and is that, how did Community Guarantee set that up to have the stairs there? They maintain it and everything, it's their liability.
It was a public way, I don't know how they.
They made it a public way?
Yeah, the stairs are the stairs are not town maintained, though, just to clarify, the stairs are not.
You had them in last year. Mm-hmm. And
Mid-state.
so that they could park up on the upper level, they were here for that
Yeah,
issue.
it's mostly, I think we asked them to have mostly staff park in the upper lot.
We asked for that, yeah.
We asked for that. I don't know that they're gonna adhere to it, but
we
we
don't.
said staff in the upper lot so that
Oh, I thought
we'd
we had a-
reduce the amount of traffic going to the residential neighborhoods.
Okay, so the fundamental reason this comes about is because of the sale of the property?
Exactly. Yep.
I missed that. Oh, you got it.
Sorry, David, can you say that one more time?
Yeah,
The fundamental reason why this comes about is because of the sale of the property.
Yes.
And he says yes.
Yep. To be honest with you, you know, full disclosure, we
Been doing it for a long
we
time.
looked at this and said, oh, this is a very easy fix. We'll do this. And then our attorney brought it to our attention that this could require a special exception. And then we found out that it needed the variance for the other 40 feet of
Peter,
distance.
had a
So-
question?
Oh, sure. So if a potential visitor, tenant, anybody visiting 42 were to park in this apparent gravel parking lot, how do they get, or what is the distance from 2 and 4 to get to 42 without trespassing on private property?
Are the stairs private property, I guess is what I would ask.
Yes.
I know that that was town-owned property. Did the town give that to CGSB?
Oh, 36 and 28, they came in before us. Those are both private properties. We established that.
They were going to maintain them, and they were there.
Right.
I didn't know that the town ever gave them that land.
I don't,
News
who
to-
built those? Was that the town that built those, or was that,
Hey, the bank got notified on this, Joseph, right?
They should have been in a butter. That's correct. The well, yes, I would think they would be. And you know, yeah, I believe it was 2006, the town did give up the right of way to
Six.
you know, Community Guarantee Savings Bank. They're no longer the ownership entity of this. It's now Midstate Health Center or Midstate
now,
Community Development.
They don't, right.
But yeah, the town does no longer have the right of way through there.
On the same vein as Peter's question, this is going to be for you, Joseph. How far is the distance that a person traveling from one to the other would travel?
On the
They're not going to go like a crow.
Sure. Yep. You know, without any you know, more specific in the zoning ordinance, that was just the route that we went. But you know, as far as going around, you know,
You go
over
one way,
Highland
or they
Street
go the other way.
or Russell Street, sure. So I can. Why don't I screen share? I can show you the tax maps because that's, I think, the best tool that we have here to look at that. These are just the towns.
Dave, can I ask another question?
Let's wait till he gets an answer to this one.
Oh, okay.
So we have 42 Main Street here.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you can see it up there. All right, so
Joseph, if you hit the measure, you should be able to just make a line and it'll auto-calculate for you. I just
So
did
it's-
it.
Look at this, he's got it right up on the screen.
let's do this here then.
it's
Yep.
in tech?
And then, so if we go, you know, this route,
50. You're 500.
Oh, yeah, that's a long way around.
Look like I'm in Mac.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Can you just
and then
here over
I
there?
don't think so. I mean, it
It's
shows a
still-
little bit of the.
Webster Street isn't, you know, isn't a maintained throughway all the way through there. That would be, it is a right of way, but it's not fully built out. That's looking
Hey,
like
guys, watch, pay attention.
1,500. And then, you know, and of course, these are just rough. These are not, you know, not with a wheel. It's not a completely, this is just a, you know, a tax map rough estimate. But per the, you know, those would be the alternate routes.
Well, even as a
What's the
pedestrian,
distance?
Yeah,
as Peter's question implied, as a pedestrian,
Mm-hmm.
you're living in one place and you're walking to the other, how far is that?
Yeah, so in this case, going north over Highland Street, 2,200 feet.
Why would you go north? Wouldn't you go up through the bank property?
could you please do that? Yeah.
Through the bank.
Right, there you go.
591.
Right.
Students are gonna walk that way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, honestly, the stairs are not marked off, and I think people in town use them all the time.
All right.
Just for conversation, I recall asking the question of the applicant when they came in of 28 and 36 about common use and access and lighting, and safe access, all-season access. And they said that they were going to maintain their stairs for their patrons or their parking. Now, you can recall, or if you recall, I recall, the owner of Panther Pub was in that evening and spoke as a concerned citizen and asked, would they be able to use those lots off hours? And the applicant said yes. So, although there's probably not a formal easement, there may be a good faith understanding, and perhaps if this applicant would get a letter from this owner to that effect to go along with their application, I think that would at least get the number to plus or minus 500 feet. But again, they're relying on a shortcut through someone else's property with no guarantee that those steep stairs will be cleared, sanded, salted, whatever. Or the lights on.
That's a lot. Can I talk?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
You all set?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
That's a lot to expect, to go into a bank full of lawyers and ask them for or kind of a little right-of-way over your land like that. I mean, I don't know. That's, I know that this is a interesting app, and the town hasn't come and proposed anything for these properties that are kind of locked in without any cars. And
This is your chance to,
without
this is a chance to
parking.
ask him questions. We'll be talking amongst ourselves.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, I wanted to know was, behind 42 Main, is that steep terrain? Is that kind of unpassable terrain?
Pretty steep.
It is, okay.
It's steep
And that goes
terrain.
right next to the old greasy wheel there next door, too.
If I could speak, it is steep terrain back there, but once it gets up over the first initial, it becomes much less steep. There was a conversation not that many years ago with the person that owns the property between what was CGSB and 42 Main about extending their parking lot to make more parking for the town. Now, that person was not interested, I guess, without being compensated. There is a new person there, though, that has bought that property, so.
We were willing to donate the land to the town to create more parking for the town at that point.
And that's a
That's
plateau.
why,
Got a couple of questions. The fence is to the left of what you're calling the parking lot.
Yes,
Is that the boundary? Whose fence is that?
it's your fence, yeah. I would say the parking, the boundary is probably a few feet over from that fence. On the
Do you
edge.
know, sir?
I believe that's the case. I haven't looked at a survey recently.
But you do know that it's your fence?
It is.
Okay.
What fence is it, David?
Have you considered the setback that's required for a parking area?
The only thing we did was we went through Brian Murphy, who gave us the okay.
No, Brian's not here anymore, and we have to deal with that.
But that, you didn't build it, though, you just
No, it was
cleaned it
there.
up. I mean, it was
We didn't
existing.
put the fence up.
You didn't do the plowing and the making, and the gravel and all that stuff that's there now?
We plow all that, but we didn't do any of that. That was rough grading.
Why is there no parking sign on both sides of what is that little stubby right-of-way?
Could be the building adjacent, when you come in, the one that's on the right, the white one.
Could be the-
If you parked on their land
Oh, that's what it is.
in front of that, you wouldn't have access to get to Gould Street, and they would have a problem backing out of their parking area.
I think the only no parking sign we have is right there, and I think it says, or it's supposed to say no parking other than 42 Main Street people or whatever.
I was talking about up on Gould Terrace.
Yeah, 2 and 4.
I wasn't talking about,
Oh. We don't have any no parking signs.
there are two up there.
Sure, here, take it.
One is immediately to the right, and the other one's to the left.
I think
One
he's
to the left
talking
is our
about a fence
parking area.
that's right
One
over
to the right
here.
is the White House owns that
I
piece of
don't quite
property.
get what he's saying there.
Okay?
Was that parking sign in front of where the dumpster sits?
No, the dumpster's way down the
Well, they
end.
are. I don't-
Okay.
They're not pushing it back to here.
where they pushed all the snow and the dumpsters down that way.
Yeah, they're just gonna
Peter.
do it right in there.
Have you surveyed lots 2 and 4?
Not recently.
Thank you.
Oh, no, wait, it is. It's down
Is there an
Tom.
I'm sorry.
Is there an easement across, do the owners of 2 and 4 have an easement across number 6 that directly connects to this alleged parking lot?
I don't believe so. I believe that's still, isn't that still, town of Plymouth who plows it and owns that piece directly in front of, except for a small parking area perhaps.
Well, that's why I asked if there was a survey, because according to this graphical image, which is probably a tax map aerial or something of the sort, Gould Terrace heads to the north, and to the south, which is headed towards your parcels 2 and 4, there's only lot 6.
There's a better map, Peter.
Right, same thing, right. So, yeah, this, thank you. So in the back page to this,
Letter.
Richard Gowan letter dated, well, it's not dated.
We're talking about these two up here.
Well, anyway, the second page to that letter, this presumably also is perhaps from tax map. It shows a dashed,
This is the tax map.
this is tax map, okay. Shows a dashed right away
We're confused.
through, oh, that's 44 though. Oh, that's it, oh, okay, so 44, it's not 246 then, or
Yeah,
this
that's
is
why the
old?
numbers are really off on the maps.
Okay, so this is actually
two different
6,
maps.
this is 4, and this is 2.
Yeah, this is 6, then 4, and then 2.
All right. Well, I'll go one step further. The reason I asked about the survey is because the regulations also have a
come on, fellas.
maximum lot coverage requirement by impervious surfaces, and gravel is considered impervious, and lot 6 looks, merely by observation, very covered. And we already heard testimony earlier tonight, these lots 2 and 4 are quite small quantitatively. And so I'm wondering if the overall impervious quantity, specifically on lot 4, may exceed 75%, depending on how large this gravel area is. So that would be a finding of fact that I think would be important to know, should this board have a surveyed site plan to consider that actually showed the geometry of this parking area.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
You're going to ask a question?
Yeah, I'd like to ask one back.
You can answer a question, but no, you can't ask a board member a question.
Oh, I was going to ask all of you. I just, the question is about the idea that this parking area has been there for many years. We're not creating a new parking area. This is something that exists.
Okay.
You can-
Go ahead, Tom.
There's a little confusion that, on the aerial map, it shows lot 6 on the corner of Gould, that's very clear. But then you got 4 and 2, and on this drawing of your tax map, it shows you, those parking spaces there. They just all over, it's all under the wood. I was there. I mean, I don't, I can't really tell how far it did, but you're gonna put all in front of 4 and partially in front of 2. And so that's not gonna be, that's so overcrowded now, it's so overcovered. Talk
On the
about,
map, it looks like it's forested there. Is it forested there, or is it cleared?
No,
it isn't,
not a tree there.
I was there, I mean,
The slope going down to Plymouth Guarantee is treed.
yeah,
The slope going down to Rite Aid is treed.
okay.
But that whole flat surface has been a parking area forever and ever and ever, that everybody.
Okay, it just doesn't show here very well, that's all right.
I would just point out,
Go ahead.
you're asking for a change. Nothing is grandfathered when you ask for a change.
Okay. That was,
So that argument doesn't fly, just so you'll know that. All right, I had a couple more questions. find out where they are. Oh, there they are, on the white pad.
Hey, Peter, says, what is gravel impervious? I thought impervious was asphalt, unless you got the special impervious asphalt.
We'll have a chance to argue amongst ourselves.
Well,
We're still in us asking them questions.
okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's all right. We're all in a dither tonight. Things are just a little out of sorts.
Would it be helpful to the board if I showed a photograph? I do have a photograph of the site.
Yes.
Put it on the screen.
Okay. How long has this, down on Main Street, has that been an apartment house?
2010, was it?
Since when?
10?
Yeah, every bit of that, yeah.
Yeah, approximately 2010.
We,
As long as you bought it,
was
right?
Masonic Lodge, and we converted it to student apartments upstairs and commercial space downstairs. And I think it's probably been 2000.
That's it?
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are 2 and 4 Gould Terrace, these 2 houses in the photo. And it should be up on that
Is
screen.
that the front side or the back side?
This is from standing at the end of, or I suppose you could say where Gould Terrace hits sort of the flat point behind the old Community Guarantee Savings Bank. So this is taken from sort of the end of Gould Terrace, looking towards the properties south.
Thank you for that. I've definitely been there, but it's not somewhere I travel that often. Not.
Anything else?
Is that a wood rail in front of the
Can I get
car?
clarification on the application? Right, so the application's incomplete. It says an application for a variance. So what, and then the application for a special exception. Can I just get clarification on exactly what they're asking for, with that part being absent? Yes, that's a question.
Yep. Uh,
So what are you asking for a variance for?
The variance is for the distance, because you have a 300-foot distance regulation in your planning board regulations, which my understanding is very close to being changed, potentially.
We say
I
that
should
the
say.
parking for a residence can't be more than 300 feet away. Is that what that says?
And off-site parking.
And
Yep.
off-site
Off-site
parking.
parking.
Okay.
So it's that, and then the special exception is for the use of the parking lot as a parking lot.
Which requires,
Use of the parking lot as a parking lot because it's
It
technically.
is required, yep.
Because it's yard, technically? I don't know.
I can,
Off-site parking lot, okay.
I can help them out a little there. Off-street facilities, off-street parking facilities is 411.3. And 300-foot thing,
Thank you, David.
that comes in on page 68. I think that's where it is.
Yeah, so would you like me to speak to that a little bit?
No. That's okay. The ordinance is the ordinance. It says 300 feet.
Mm.
Item D, section 4. And I'll just read it so you'll all hear. The proposed off-site parking facility must be within 300 feet of the use for which the parking facility is provided.
Okay. And how much was it distance-wise when you walked cutting through community guarantee?
550 or something
500
like
and
that.
something.
500 and something, so it was more than that, okay.
As the crow goes, it was 300 and maybe 40 feet
40.
over. Yeah.
Okay.
The Plymouth Panthers, not the Plymouth Crows. Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions
All right.
there for them?
No, not time yet. You can be seated. Well, unless there's a member of the public that has a question for, no, okay. Is there any other member that wants to speak? Okay, then the public hearing is closed, and we'll begin our deliberations on these matters. This is not going through the criteria. We do that after we have a chance to talk about
That's
things.
fine. This is our establishing facts and
Right,
discussion
exactly.
amongst ourselves.
Peter, you're going to take, are you, Joseph, you're going to take down the facts?
Yep, I will do that. And I do have on the back of your staff report has the variance criteria, special exception criteria, and special exception criteria.
We'll get there in a
specific.
bit, though. First, we got to establish the facts.
That's what you want. Okay.
Proponent, one fact, proponent seeks a special exception to create an off-site parking lot. And the proponent is asking for a variance based on the distance, which is greater than 300 feet, as cited in the ordinance. That's the basics.
I got one for both of them.
Good.
That the applicant's main residence at 42 Main has no parking at all.
There's a driveway beside it.
There is.
Huh?
There's a driveway beside it.
Yeah, there is a
There is a driveway?
Yeah.
I didn't, okay.
Between them and Venture Print, right? Is that Venture Print still?
That's right, that's a very, yes, there is a driveway there,
Yeah,
okay?
I've wanted to park there myself.
Well, then
right?
42 has inadequate
They're saying
parking
that
for
there is
this.
no.
For the number of people,
Huh?
for the number of people.
There are
we
no
have there.
people that's got inadequate parking space.
Okay, that's a good finding.
Well, the applicants just said that there is not a parking space.
Oh,
The applicants just said that there is not a parking space.
you said there's not a parking space there? I didn't think so, but
It's an alley.
it's an alley, okay. So anyhow, they're short on parking spaces at 42.
Should we have a finding of fact that the property at 42 Main Street is being sold?
Absolutely.
I think that is partly the reason for why we're here, right?
That's what the proponent said.
Yes.
Yeah, the basis of the request is because the property is being sold.
Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
I think, Peter, you have, your point ought to go in.
Okay.
Pedestrian traffic from
The,
the property on Main Street to the property on Gould Street would be
Requires a-
through
Private property,
private property.
to achieve the minimum
Distance.
distance, correct.
And what do you think about a finding of fact about the number of cars that could be there? Because if they have up to 12 people, potential people being there, that could be 12 cars, right? So they have to park 12 cars up on that upper lot. That's going to go between 2 and 4 Gold Terrace.
That would be the plan, perhaps.
That is the plan.
what's the regulation call for units? Is it one vehicle or 1.5 vehicles per, spaces per?
On Main Street, things are different.
Oh, that's right, the
That's
civic
in the,
institutional.
Right. The zone that that's in is the commercial zone.
Okay, good.
How many
Parking
spaces would
requirements.
be, how many spaces would be in that lot? In the existing parking lot in question?
The one they want to move to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought I
That
saw
was a
that
question
in the
we
paperwork.
never really resolved.
I don't know that we did, because it does seem like they would need up to 12 cars, but they would probably need space for more than 12, right? Because they also need space for visitors.
There's a, if you
There
look,
is street parking for visitors.
you can't tell. It's 97 feet and 58 feet. But part of the 97 isn't used. It's like 100 feet maybe before you get to the dumpster.
Yeah, but that picture is quite telling. That's a small car there now. fairly apparent steep slope as a front yard, and then a feeble attempt for a guardrail, presumably protecting a steep slope on the foreslope.
There's a wood guardrail.
Yeah,
there's some
wood,
trees on
something
there.
or other. But back to the parking, the 411-2, under multifamily dwelling, it reads 1.5 spaces per unit for the first bedroom and 0.5 spaces for each additional bedroom.
Okay.
And that's in the civic institutional, huh? Yeah.
I think it wasn't, I thought it was 3 units with up to 3 people per unit. But
This
I don't know
is
how many
village commercial.
bedrooms
Find
that
the
they
right
have.
space.
Parking regulation doesn't talk about the
The
number
number
of
of
occupants.
people.
Village commercial, we're
Talks
village
about the number of
commercial.
bedrooms.
It is village.
I don't know how many bedrooms are there.
Peter, so that applies to everything, that's not just civic institutional.
This,
That-
yes,
that-
yes, Tom, I'm reading in the village commercial zone.
Village commercial, okay,
Yes.
thank you, yeah. I got another findings of fact.
What's that?
Well, when you come down at the end of Gould Terrace to the, what would that be, the west, is a very, it's a good parking lot there, the community
north.
guarantee. To the north is
Community
developed
guarantees
parking lot,
Yes,
and to the south is undeveloped parking lots.
yes.
Okay? I mean, I think this would be a little bit of a different app.
Say that again, please.
That when you come down Gould Terrace,
Right, down here.
at the bottom, at the foot of Gould Terrace, to the north is a pretty developed parking lot.
That's the bank's
That's the
parking lot.
community balance, yeah, the bank parking lot.
Right.
That's nice, that's the highest and best for that area there. That's a good thing. But on the other side, going the other way, going south, it's just a very raw parking area.
Underdeveloped, but still parking area
Yeah,
nonetheless.
it is, yeah.
I think we need a fact, though, that part of the parking area is in a setback area.
That,
Setback
Dave,
applies.
that could be, and also about your, where'd you get this impervious soil, this gravel?
It's in the state,
That's the new standard?
it's not a new standard.
Okay,
Gravel is impervious.
gravel's impervious.
Requires drainage, okay.
Correct.
That's a planning board issue, really.
Correct.
Well, but that implies to setbacks and all that stuff.
Well, we're talking about the amount of space that's available for parking. If part of that has to be in a setback, that affects the number of vehicles that you could put in that area.
In the
Oh, are there
setback,
setbacks in civic institutional?
Yes,
There's no front setback, but there's side setbacks.
setbacks on all sides.
15 feet, is it?
It
Is
is,
it 15 feet?
15 feet,
15
correct.
feet.
I thought-
Oh,
Which they,
15 feet all sides, no
All
30
sides.
feet in the front, okay.
but the applicant may request a special exception to be reduced down to 5 feet.
Oh, okay.
So it can be as little as 5.
So without a survey, we don't know that that lot's non-compliant.
Correct.
Right, we don't have a survey of it. It shows the detail. I think I need another finding of fact. To access the parking lot, people will have to go through, I guess it's Russell Street, down to Gould Terrace.
So you say, though, that the applicant can apply for a special exception to reduce it down to 5 feet, but they're not applying for that today, right?
It's not in this current application, no.
Okay.
All right.
It's in your report, Joseph, but another finding of fact could be that all 3 parcels are similarly zoned.
They are, that's correct. Any other facts we should find?
I got two of them.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I already got two, so
you
I'm
did
ahead of
your part?
everybody else.
Oh,
Your
okay.
turn.
I was going to say that we had no people from the public speaking for or against this application.
That's a good finding, yeah. You didn't receive any correspondence, did you?
We did not.
Let's make sure I don't have anything else.
I think I don't know if this is a finding of fact, but could we make a finding of fact that to make it a parking lot, they wouldn't do anything to the property? They would just continue to use it as it's been used? Is that something that we can make as a finding of fact? Because it has been used in that way, it sounds like,
Well, you could say historically it's been used as a parking lot.
as a parking lot. So historically,
So there is an existing parking lot in place where they're talking about.
I think historically,
The difference is, of course, and this is not a finding of fact, it doesn't have anything to do now with with the property on Main Street.
No, that's right.
it's true. It's
Okay.
true.
The two are not connected, as far as anything is concerned.
Right. But it would be
Yeah, it knows.
if they became sold this way and we granted the variance. I get that.
Is there, I think the three properties are very similar. Would you say that? The two houses and the one on Main Street?
I think
Well,
they're
they're
really,
not, go ahead.
they're similar, but they're different in the sense that the one on Main Street has a storefront. It does have a commercial lower space. It hasn't been rented, I think, for any kind of a commercial property. I mean, maybe the Democrats have been in there. I think that's the only organization that I've seen in there in recent times, but it's been a couple of years since a business has been in there at the lower part, where the other two are strictly residential.
Okay.
Oh, so in other words, we really have no view of what the new owner intends to do there.
No, we don't.
No.
And depending on what they wanted to do, they'd either go to us or to the planning board, or wouldn't require anything. So, are we ready to start working on the criteria?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. That was put together for us.
We do the variance first?
Yeah, I have a procedural question.
Surely.
Does one precede the other, Joseph? For example, if you don't get the variance, there's no sense to have the special exception, or vice versa? Should we take one before the other? And if so, which one?
My understanding is that the variance would need to come before the special exception, since you couldn't grant the special exception if
Without the
that
variance.
criteria.
Makes
were not
sense.
That's what I
met.
thought. Thank you.
All right. Let's see.
One thing before we move on to that, just so I have clarity. Did we confirm as far as use of the stairway, that is private ownership and that they have or have not been contacted about that?
The planner tells us the town doesn't own it. If the town doesn't own it, it must be private property.
So if it's private property,
We can't
and
assume
the
that they
assumption-
that way.
We had a hearing with those people were here last year for a hearing dealing with their parking lot, the one on the right.
Yep.
Well, left depending, you're going up or down, but yeah.
Yeah, but that was mostly, their parking lot is gonna be maintained for staff, right? And their staircase, while I think it is sometimes used by people in the public, it's really on private property. Yeah,
Well, lot 28 would have been notified as an abutter, correct?
Yes, they should have been notified and received a certified notice.
The variance.
that was,
yeah, they would have been notified.
Well, so the one lot would have been notified, but since they own both, then essentially they're notified.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, Mid-State Community Development was on the abutter list.
Thank you.
All right. The variant, if we look at the application, the first thing that it asks us about is what they're asking for, which wasn't in the application, but we'll fill it in anyway. It's requested from article, let's see. No, that's special exception. The 300 foot. Yeah. I got that stuck, no. It's, am I correct, Joseph? It's Article 1204.3?
Yeah, Section D, that's correct.
Section D.
It's a real language here.
And the little block would say the proposed facility is more than 300 feet. Therefore, a variance would be required. Let's see, where is? All the ones I've got are filled in already. We'll just go ahead anyway. First one talks about the public interest.
You going through the variance criteria?
Yeah.
I think we should.
Yeah, and then we'll vote on those.
Sure.
The first
Okay.
One at a
one,
time.
I got granted variance not to diminish the value,
diminish the value of the surrounding properties is the first one, David.
yep.
We're talking about the public interest.
The first one or the second one? The second one
oh,
is the
yes.
public interest.
Number one is public
Number one.
interest.
Number one is the,
I got
I
a
see.
different one than you
yeah,
do.
they're different there. It's on the applicant.
Yeah,
Try there. That's what he's saying.
sure.
They're just out of order.
Okay, Dave, we can go with this one, that's fine. I
Well-
didn't know that.
How do you, what order are you doing them in?
Oh, it's correct, and I didn't notice this, that the application, they're listed
different from the-
separately, differently from the ordinance, so whichever order, as long as
Okay,
it's
we'll,
the
we'll go by the one
consistent.
that Joseph sent out.
You like that one? Okay.
The one that Joseph sent out, okay.
Yeah, you got it. You can-
Granting the variance will not diminish the value of surrounding properties.
Yeah,
I think you can. I think the issue would be, does traffic and 12 cars parking there, coming and going, diminish surrounding property values?
it's hard. I think it's, in that neighborhood, it does all seem to be similar use. Right, it's all student housing. If you look, all these lots on that upper road, I think it's similar.
All the lots on.
On this, up here, right?
Oh,
Behind
yeah,
it.
yeah, I was just
You
thinking
look-
they're all gonna be coming in
I
here.
mean, this is
coming and
residential, commercial.
going. Just, it won't hurt anything down here, but
There are, across the other side of Russell Street are some private homes,
Up here, on the other side. Yes,
not on the same side.
Are there any private homes there?
up in here. There are. There's one or two, like 32, 30. I think there's that one in there. There's one or two.
Well,
What do you think, Peter? Have any thoughts?
I do. However, I can't relate those thoughts to information we don't have. They're purely speculative, and I don't think I can enter them into record. My concern is related to no survey, no deeded easement, a speculative easement, perhaps even inadequate, on Lot 6, which is their primary access to get to this place, and then the construction of this alleged parking area, and whether or not that added traffic, if there were to be added traffic,
Yeah.
would cause additional degradation to that area or surface, and then maybe slope instability. I mean, who knows, right? It's all just speculative. I don't know. But the question asked, granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest. Well, I think,
Well, no, the first one
First
deals
one
with,
is-
with diminishing the value.
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. I went to the wrong
Of
one.
the
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay, anybody
Then
wanna
I-
vote?
Right, then I retract that. I say no, I agree with Ms. Halter's earlier statement. I mean, Lot 6 and Lot 8, its direct abutters, graphically appear to be of similar size, of similar use, of similar value. I don't think, in my opinion, granting the variance would not diminish the value of the surrounding properties.
Can I ask you one extra question, Joseph? 39, 33, and 29, those lots all would have been notified about this application? As abutters, right?
Are those the property numbers, parcel numbers?
Yeah,
The
they're
parcel
direct
numbers.
abutters.
So those
Yes.
are on, what's that road there that the library's on?
Russell?
Russell Street. So 39, 33, and 29
I
there.
think-
The properties behind 2 and 4 Gold.
I think in support of number one, I think we should make a note that this has been used in the past as a parking lot, and therefore, there may be a slight increase in the number of cars parked there, but the use is basically the same, And that-
Historically.
and that therefore would not necessarily diminish the value of surrounding property.
But was it public parking, or was it dedicated parking for Lot 2
For the
and 4?
people, they said it was for the people who were in those two units there.
Okay.
And their friends. So, yeah. Number two, the variance, have you got that?
Yep.
Okay,
Did
Did we vote on number one?
I think we have to
we're
vote
gonna
on.
go through them and then we'll vote, Tom.
We're gonna go through first.
We're gonna go through them all and talk
We're
about
gonna
them?
go through the variance criteria and then we're gonna vote on them.
And then we're gonna go back and vote. Before, we used to vote on each one of the criteria.
And now we're not.
We're just
We're
gonna
gonna
go.
vote on each criteria,
Okay.
not as we go along.
That's fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah. The second one is the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and this is, I think, what you were talking about, Peter.
Correct, I jumped the gun. I believe a variance would be contrary to public interest. For public safety, access, stormwater, grading, many reasons. Regardless of existing or historical uses.
I think I would add to that the town set the standard at 300 feet. I have no idea how that number was picked, but it is what they picked when they set the ordinance. Okay, did you get that? Okay. The third one is denial of the variance would result in an unnecessary hardship to the applicant upon proof that, first, it says, the zoning restriction as applied to the applicant's property interferes with the applicant's reasonable use of the property, considering the unique setting of the property and its environmental. It's a tough sentence. Well, the property's been, we gotta talk about which property we're talking about.
Yes.
The one on Main Street has been used as student housing in the past.
Yes.
It's gonna continue as student housing in the future.
Or apartment rentals, yes, whether that's students or others.
So I guess my point is, it's being used reasonably now.
Hey, Mr. Chairman. Hey, do we have somebody observing this that we didn't get in the roll call?
Don't know.
Oh, I think is that, I don't know,
There is one member of the public present via Zoom.
but they never spoke.
They didn't speak, huh?
Okay.
But that is a member present, sort of.
The challenge is that it's been used for student rentals historically, but with no ample parking on that lot, right? And they were using parking on an off-site location that really wasn't, it was historically done, but not really allowed within the variance, right? Allowed within the zoning regulations. And so like what they were doing, even though that they've been doing it historically, that's not really what they were supposed to be doing, is to allow students to park up there for this lower.
Because of the 250 rule.
Because of the
300.
300 feet
300 rule.
regulation,
Yeah.
yeah. Right, and each lot that you have, when you have a lot like this, and you put in student parking, like, you're supposed to be able to have parking on your lot.
And you can't, they can't anymore. Okay.
I can't.
The reason, I guess I would say the reasonableness of use isn't changing. On Main Street.
Reasonableness of use on Main Street?
Another variance would result in unnecessary hardship.
Denial of variance would result.
Where are they currently parking?
Well, I mean,
Where are they currently parking?
What have you got, Joseph?
These
As
places
far
aren't
as under the
parking. Anybody,
hardship?
they might go down to a hill.
Number
and
3.
turn down the
Hey.
road.
Yeah, so far, the property is being used
So they can
now
go down
in a
there.
reasonable
They can go
way.
down Railroad
It's
Square.
been used without ample parking and as off-site parking, perhaps in a non-permitted manner before, and the reasonable use of on Main Street has not changed.
Okay.
when that building was bought and redone, did that ever come before the town? Did that ever come before the town?
Which
Prior applications?
building, I'm sorry?
The one on 42
Main Street.
Main Street, the Main Street building. Was that ever, when they were doing renovations or like that, was there historically any applications that the town approved, that sanctioned
It came before the planning board.
before the planning board to allow them to redo the apartments? Even knowing that they didn't have ample parking on the lot?
Yeah, well, it wasn't required on Main Street. I don't think that you didn't have to have a, no,
We'll come back over all of them. The second part of
I think that matters, though.
B would be, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purposes of the zoning ordinance and the specific restriction on the property.
So they're saying that in this question, it's really asking if the 300 feet for off-site regulation, is that reasonable, right?
yeah.
Right?
And I think, although Joseph measured it as the crow goes, we just measured it, it's over 500 feet if you talk about the minimum of walking distance across private property. Otherwise, it's a huge
But of
strip.
course, the ordinance didn't talk whether that's 300 feet as the crow flies or what.
It's true.
No, it doesn't. The regulation is silent on that.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're
But they
asking,
just put a radius on there and they found it was a little bit more than 300
that's
feet.
what Joseph did, yeah.
The first time around, right? Versus
And
the
that's
walking.
the crow flies.
So
The
the
t-
regulation then, what we have is a little bit unclear. on the 300 feet.
Oh, I think the 300 feet is
Define
clear.
accessible
300
route.
feet is clear, but in terms of as the property goes or as you walk? That one would reasonably
Well, we're
walk,
taking the minimum approach to it,
the minimum approach.
Doesn't say.
And we're over that.
and we're over that.
Okay. I know, this one's hard.
Well, the purpose would have been to confine parking to somewhere near the site where it's gonna be used. And they talked about 100 yards, or 300 feet.
100 yards, might have been. Well, and that really isn't that, I know that that's a problem here, but there's other issues that make
Oh, we'll,
that,
we'll get there.
okay.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay, Dave.
I think there is a relationship between the general purposes of the zoning ordinance and what they're trying to do. That's why the town wrote it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The variance would not injure the public or private rights of others. Well, we don't know about the bank, or not the bank any longer, the medical
That's right.
center.
yeah.
In my opinion, that statement is false without a specific letter of agreement or understanding from this property owner saying you can cut through my property. In absence of that, we have to assume to get close to that 300, it requires access or an accessible route through private property to get more near to the 300 feet.
Okay? So the variance therefore would
I believe
presumptively injure private rights of others.
so, yes.
It's possible. It's hard because they're not here. They didn't show up in support.
It's not
or
your job
against.
to judge that. Okay? They bring the evidence. They bring the evidence, and we have to deal with it. Okay? All right? I'd point out one other thing that came from this big, thick book that they gave us, which is that, and this is where it goes to this fact, the sale of the property was the fundamental reason for the,
Yes,
and that is that's a financial issue. That's not
yes.
a
Hardship.
It's not a hardship. It's a financial issue. And a financial issue can't be a hardship. That's the primary reason. So I think that should be in there as well. Number 4, the granting the variance would do substantial justice. Well, I don't know. I don't know how many other units in town personally utilize off-site parking.
I was gonna ask that question.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Formally or informally, right?
So we have no way of knowing.
Well, as I said earlier, I recall last year when the new owner of the former bank property came in and discussed their renovations and slight parking modifications. And again, the owner of Panther Pub, which I would submit is greater than 350 feet from this parking lot. They mutually agreed, the owner and that local businesswoman, that was acceptable use off-site. So that is probably an example of an informal agreement. However, they have a straight access along a town-maintained sidewalk, relatively the same grade, to a developed parking lot. While that is an example that I would say would be
Comparable?
comparable, no, comparable in the sense of a substantial justice, that former application. This particular application, I think the conditions are substantially different in the sense that we have elevation change, we have a far different condition of existing parking, not only in surface conditions, but quantity, distance, lighting, even just a number of things. So, in my opinion, I don't think granting the variance under criteria 4 here, I don't think it would do justice to grant the variance.
Yeah, substantial justice looks to fairness, and I guess those are not comparable. All right, and the use will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance. Well, I don't know. The spirit of the ordinance was to relieve some parking pressure on properties that didn't have adequate parking. That was the spirit of the ordinance. And the granting of the variance would do that.
It would,
Yeah, that's a good one.
yep.
All
And
right,
it
now-
would get some of that traffic off of downtown, which
Joseph,
I appreciate.
What I'm going to ask you to do is we'll go down through these one at a time, and we'll vote on each one as we go along.
Okay.
Beforehand, does anybody have anything they want to say about the ones that we found?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman here, I guess, everybody's heard what's going on. Do you want to offer the applicant a chance to withdraw?
That's, do I want to offer?
Or do you want to just, is there an opportunity for him? If he chooses this, thinks that he wants to rethink this and, do some engineering on it or whatever he wants to do, rather than us going through and, you don't need a weatherman here. That's like,
Well, we're
hey,
not in the public hearing.
that's right.
Okay. Can we go through these one at a time?
Sure, would you like me to read the criteria?
What I'd like you to do is read one, anybody can comment, and then we'll vote on that one, and then we'll go on to the next one.
Okay. Granting the variance will not diminish the value of surrounding properties.
Any comments? Okay. All believe that to be true? Raise your hand. Okay. 3 of us think it won't diminish. It's not unanimous.
All right,
So wait, who voted? What happened there?
3 of us
You
voted,
Three
said
of us.
granting the variance will not diminish surrounding properties,
and 3 of us,
and you two voted that it will not.
As well as myself.
And you voted that way too?
As far as the, yes.
Yeah. And Peter, did you vote?
I did not,
you did not.
and you did not.
And you did not.
So by raising our hand, we're voting true?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
True.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right, that's what he asked us to do, is to raise our hand, and we're basically saying true, where we've said true in the past. So, did you
Okay.
misunderstand that? It's
No.
okay.
No.
Okay. So
Okay.
you meant to vote no, or false?
False.
Well, no, that's fine. I can just not, just didn't vote. You want to have a just vote, didn't vote, or what? I
Is
mean,
that-
how-
to you.
Abstain. You can abstain.
You can abstain.
And what did you do?
I essentially abstained. I didn't vote.
Okay.
I like that.
3 people in favor, 2 abstentions.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Uh,
The second one?
The variance would not be contrary to the public interest.
Will not be contrary, I hate this language. Will not be contrary to the public interest, so.
I'm
Granting it.
gonna vote no on this. I think it is
I-
contrary to the public interest.
I agree with you in the fact that it is financial. I think that that's a sound argument. So that,
This is public interest, though.
public interest.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that the ordinance is in the public interest. They don't need a variance. A variance isn't needed here. It's not necessary to have a,
I see, so really, what I said is the reason is really number 3, right?
Right.
Unnecessary
Yeah.
hardship. The variance will not be contrary. I'm gonna say true.
I'd say it isn't. It isn't.
So you're saying
it is
false?
not.
They're false.
False. I'm a false.
I'm a false.
False.
4 false, and you're true.
I'm true.
1 true and 4 false.
Noted.
Number 3 has 3 parts.
Sure. Denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship to the applicant on proof that the zoning restriction as applied to the applicant's property interferes with the applicant's reasonable use of the property, considering the unique setting of the property and its environmental. B, no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purposes of the zoning ordinance and the specific restriction on the property, and the variance would not injure the public or private rights of others.
Anybody have anything they want to say about this? I think this is where your comment comes in.
Yes,
Financial.
I would say this one's false.
Tom?
False.
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 False. We all say false. No hardship. The variance would do substantial justice. We don't have any evidence on that. That's the struggle we had there.
Yeah.
I guess I vote no on this one. You folks have any thoughts?
Would do substantial justice? Well, I think he's certainly trying to find a solution to a problem, and that would be,
And it would allow,
but it doesn't work out. It works out for him. And that has the issues with the distance and the access being through other lots. That's tough. And, yeah, so, no, it wouldn't do substantial justice.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment? Peter, how do you vote?
False.
False, you said.
I'm gonna say true.
True? Okay.
Mhm.
I'm voting false.
False.
Okay. 4 false and 1 true. Use will not be contrary to the spirit and intent of the ordinance.
False.
Use will not be contrary to the spirit
Of the
and the
ordinance.
intent of the ordinance. This is the
Okay.
300-foot regulation.
False.
False.
Variance, I think that is false.
False.
False. Okay. The variance does not pass. It's not necessary to go on to the special exception.
Are we going to vote on special exception? Yeah?
Well, I don't,
It's already dead with the variance.
no, the variance didn't pass.
Yeah.
I suppose there is still an application on the table in a sense of the special exception. Unless it was withdrawn, I guess it is still an
Oh, okay.
active application.
Okay, we'll go through it.
It might give them a sense of what they could address in their application if they chose to resubmit it at a later date.
All right. Joe wants to go through the special exception criteria. The proposed use shall be only those allowed in this ordinance by special exception. That's true, and we can point to the specific section, which which is,
Yeah, that's true. They can have a,
yeah, we gotta point the number out. That is D
D, yeah.
on 12043,
Yep.
D. That's true.
True,
Everybody say true?
true.
True.
True? True. Okay. The specific site is an appropriate location and adequate size for the use.
I mean, it's
kind
within,
of known.
I think it's the setbacks, right? I mean, I think somewhat it might not be because of the setbacks.
We don't have adequate information.
I would abstain.
I think that's fair.
It's hard to say because we don't really know the exact
know.
numbers.
So we
Well, I
abstain.
can't say that that's a positive statement, because we don't know. So I would say no, because we don't know.
I would say no, because we don't know. I think abstaining just doesn't, it
No?
just punts it.
You a no?
I'm gonna say no.
Currently,
We're on number 2. Specific
no, I understand that, but I'm at a loss as to the difference between the application, the variance versus the special exception.
Special exception, if you're gonna have a site which is off-site parking, the law requires you to have a special exception to the zoning ordinance.
So
It's
still
something
allowed
that is allowed, but it requires our approval.
to be using that space.
But on their application, it's specifically requesting for the Gould Terrace location, which is what we just voted on per the
Off-site.
For the
variance.
variance, right.
That's where I'm at a loss as how the special
I think it's moot.
exception is not
Personally, I
negated.
think it's moot. I don't think,
This whole thing's kind of moved. Keep on moving there.
do you really feel we have to vote on this?
My the reason for suggesting that just was that, you know, we do have the application. It was, you know, two separate requests. You know, one for a variance and one for a special exception. I suppose it would be, you know, up to the board's discretion, but it would certainly, you know, without a variance, it wouldn't be able to in theory pass the provision of the special exception criteria that the variance was requested from.
Well, the only thing we got stuck on here, Dave, is that that we don't have any information to make a decision about whether the lot is of substantial
Adequate
size
size.
to be able to look at it. So like you kind of got 4 abstains or whatever. I mean,
I-
you can't say yes, you can't say no.
If we don't know, we should vote no. Right, instead of abstaining.
I would accept,
Well, yeah, you can
I would
do
accept
that.
a motion that we deny the special exception
That's the way to go. I think that's great.
Okay,
for inadequate information.
There you go. That looks great. I'd make that motion.
I'll second that
Tom made a
motion.
motion.
Stephanie seconded that motion.
All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Tom, you and I,
Yep.
5. The special exception is not approved for lack of information. There we go.
And the variance was approved.
All right,
I left that, so we can come up with some kind of.
Well, there's only a limited amount of products in downtown Plymouth to work with, so
There is.
no,
shame that this is the way that it's looked at. I don't envy you your job either.
Thanks for coming in.
People don't sign up for this job regularly
I know.
for that reason.
Make a motion, adjourn?
Wait a minute, let me check the agenda. Wait a minute. Unfinished business, do we have any unfinished business? Oh, actually, I have banged the gavel. That hearing's over.
Okay.
Any unfinished business? Did any, and I can ask a question? Did
I
anybody?
didn't do my class thing from last time, but I looked it over. I haven't really sat down and filled them all out. It's just great. In all the years I've been here, nobody has done anything like that.
No,
I don't
that's-
know how people are supposed to come up to speed. It's just right on the money. I hope you can do more things. I mean, I went to quite a few of the municipal meetings. I used to really enjoy those, and
Yep.
they're good for you. But anyhow,
Did you take the test?
I haven't done it yet,
I
but I
know.
have it at home.
Have you?
I will take
No, I
it.
didn't do it yet either.
It's all printed out.
I haven't
You
jumped
can
in.
take it.
See how we can lose.
Between,
No, right, we have all the
I
answers.
did like 80%. Well, I mean, I left a little
Well,
early.
60 or something is a passing, isn't it?
I'd have to check back, but
It's really
it's,
ridiculous.
65 if I remember right.
yeah, I think,
I think I would have passed it,
Okay,
taking it on my own.
I think so.
yeah, and it is non-mandatory as well. You can always take it without putting in your email address first as sort of a practice test, and then put in your email address
I
afterwards.
mean, if you fail it, you could
Okay.
take it again.
I'm going to do it in January, I promise. Any new business?
May I ask some questions, and possibly we should wait until after the meeting, but if it's more appropriate, but I just wanted to, in denial of the variance and things like that, in regards to this application, is it ever appropriate to give them opportunity through potential moves that they could do to reapply and make improvements towards their opportunity to pass?
That's the sort of thing that Joseph does in his office
Yeah.
Okay.
prior to the meeting. When we meet, and by the way, it's appropriate that you discuss that in the meeting.
Okay.
We can't talk after the meeting. When the meeting's adjourned, any three of us get together, we're breaking the zoning law, okay? So
Okay.
Should be
it's-
public session.
This is the right place to talk about any of those issues that you got. And he is the right fellow for them to discuss this with. You did not make a recommendation in these cases. I was surprised at that.
Yeah, I saw that too.
So I guess to speak to that, the key with, the zoning board sort of cases, and you may be familiar, it's generally not seen as appropriate for the zoning board to make a different decision on a substantially the same application, unless certain, facts have substantially changed that would merit making a different decision on the case. So typically, obviously, it's a bit of a difficult standard to know exactly if something substantively changed, but generally, if, it wouldn't be seen as necessarily appropriate to submit the same application again, because unless some of the facts had
Changed.
substantially changed, and they could prove that.
For instance, they had actually upgraded the lot to be similar to how the bank's lot is, where it's a fully
They
developed
had
parking
plans
lot.
to do that.
Or they had a
Plans to
real
do-
plan
Yeah.
rather than,
Even having the property assessed, right?
They thought that this was simply something that would get rubber stamped, and they didn't even fill in the
No.
chapter and verse that this thing was supposed to comply with.
No, their application was incomplete.
They got bad advice from the start, and
The board did them immense justice by simply hearing it and discussing. In most other communities, it would have been rejected within the first few minutes and they'd have been sent packing.
Agreed.
Can I say something?
Because
here?
it is a lot of
That
time.
was my suggestion, that when we vote on the criteria, if one of those 5 criteria fails, 3 to 2, then the whole thing collapses.
they need all 5.
They need
It's
all
of
5.
one of those 5. So that's why I was saying, when Peter was over there mulling around, I didn't like that, and everybody's nodding, I thought, that's why I suggested
so-
to the chair
and-
that he could offer
But
the people.
we really have to go through all 5 to do it right.
and so, but to his point, is it ever appropriate to reopen the public hearing after it's been closed? To
no.
offer them the opportunity
if
to withdraw, as
somebody
he
in the-
mentioned?
Well, I didn't think so. If somebody in the group felt there's information that they have that they didn't present, they could ask the chair. I can put it to the board. The board will say, let's go back to public. Well, let's not go back to public. The presumption is that once you close the public hearing, that public hearing's over. They've presented everything that they have.
Okay,
I didn't get
So it's
to
on the-
finish. Did I finish what I was gonna say?
sorry.
That when one criteria was not met, you can see it, people shaking their heads, and the other ones didn't look so good. If you offer an opportunity for them to withdraw the application, then they can redo it and come back.
We've had
If we go,
instances.
wait, if we go through with the vote, now it goes into that lot file and it stays there. They were refused an alternate parking lot. And it makes it very hard to climb back
For them in
over
the
that
future.
again.
To be fair, they could have stood up and said, point of order.
Yeah.
I would have had to listen to them. What's your point of order? The proponent wishes to withdraw the application. We can't propose it to them. They can propose it to
But
us.
David, a lot of them don't understand. You already said
That's true.
2 sentences ago that they really didn't know what was going,
Well,
the chapter and verse of
But
the law.
but that's their job.
Well,
They've done this before.
small
So,
time.
yeah, so Malik, to answer your question, the board
Be surprised
helped
I
them
don't get
immensely, simply by the questions, by the finding of facts.
I was ready for the board to say, the application's incomplete, we're not gonna hear it.
I thought about it, but it's kind of cold. They're the only ones here. We had time. So
Go
I,
through it.
exactly. So I extended that courtesy. That's just my opinion.
You did say that, that's right.
Well, nobody objected.
Right. But Malik, I'm a professional engineer. I've been doing this for 30 years. I never let a client go for a special exception or variance without an attorney present. The attorney does the presentation, and they don't miss a thing.
right.
So, special exceptions, as Mr. Ken has said, they're supposed to be hard by their very nature. So you have,
Variance is supposed to be the hardest.
yes, a variance and both. So you really need to have your ducks in a row.
You do.
And this was just,
Slap together.
well, it could have been better.
Could have been a stronger
My-
application.
My philosophy is fairly simple. The town sets the standard,
Yeah.
and people are supposed to follow the standard. And it's really got to be, these things would lead you to a conclusion that the standard is grossly unfair under the circumstances because of the way it's written, or it used to be, the land, the character of the land was the issue. Now that's been eased off a little bit. The word reasonable has crept into things over time. So you have to sort of step backward and say, okay, you know, is there we violating some common decency of reasonableness? But, like Peter said, it's their job to present to us and us to deal with the evidence that they provide. And the lack of a plan,
The regulations are pretty clear, and
Yeah.
as David said, also, they can meet with Joseph every day, if he'll let them, and work on one thing at a time, you know?
You gotta
Very few
remember,
people do.
Every decision we make has probably got a value of about
June
$25.
used to meet with people almost.
So it's got some.
So you wouldn't let an application come here until it was
His
complete.
price of that building would be a
Yeah.
lot different than it was.
And you should need,
Yeah, and I did meet with the applicant and give him the criteria,
Well, it
give
was
him,
obviously-
you know,
Mobile home in the backyard.
prior to, you know, my
Yeah.
understanding too was that they would submit an addendum, and
Yeah.
I did not have much time to
we got
review
that
that
one letter.
addendum.
Came in. The
Yeah.
letter that they submitted today, unfortunately, did say the purpose of this was so they could sell the building.
Yeah, that shoots them in the foot, really.
Yeah. So,
TikTok.
well, thank you, folks. I'm going to take that test this month, I promise.
Good.
I'm motivated too, David. I'll try.
I'll tell you what I got. Make a motion to adjourn?
It's been a long time since I
Second.
received an F.
I.
Seconded?
Second.
Malik did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you,
Thank you
Malik, for
so
coming
much.
down.